back to Jac'd with
Joel, Austin,
Caitlin,
and Dawn.
Today we're going to switch it up a little bit with our topic. We are going to be talking about a missing persons case, Maura Murray. She disappeared in 2004. We're going to go over kind of different theories. Well, first we're going to tell you about her story, what happened the day she went missing. We're going to go through different theories. I'm a really big true crime fan, and I have been following this case for a few years now, and I introduced them to the case as well. So we watched a documentary on Oxygen together. It's called The Disappearance of Maura Murray, and Austin listened to my favorite podcast about it, True Crime Garage. Represent, love you guys. So we are going to go ahead and get started on the case. I'll kind of tell you guys a little bit, and then we'll go through the theories. And there's a lot to this case.
There is a
lot. There's no way we can put it all into like one episode. I mean, people have been studying this case for
Years.
16 years now, and there's still no answers. So, anyway, so in 2004, Maura Murray left her dorm room of UMass in Massachusetts early evening, and she sent out an email to all of her professors saying that she wasn't going to be at school that week because there was a death in the family. Comes to find out there was no death in the family. Nobody knows why. She sent out those emails, just that she was going to be gone for a week. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, she sent in an assignment that was due the next morning. So we know that she cared enough about her classes to turn in that assignment on time. So we'll get back to that later, but that kind of rules out one theory that we're going to talk about, so just keep that in mind. So she leaves her dorm room and starts heading north. We do know that she stopped at a liquor store.
Yes.
A liquor store
And an ATM.
and an ATM, and she withdrew around $260 out of her account, which was basically all the money she had in her account.
Yeah, she only had like 16 bucks left.
Yeah,
She basically drained.
drained her account. Later, they do show the family footage of that ATM. They know it's definitely her. So, she starts driving up north into this little town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, out in the middle of nowhere. It's 7 o'clock at night, but in February, this is February 9th, 2004, it's already pitch black outside because wintertime it gets dark super early, especially up north.
Yeah.
And all the snow, and yeah. So, at 7:05 is when the first 911 call comes in from a neighbor saying that somebody crashed on the road. And so the police, it came over the police radio that there was a driver that had ran off the road, possibly intoxicated. One of the 911 calls came in and said there was a man with her smoking a cigarette. That's never been verified. So just keep that in mind as well. Where she crashed was kind of on a curve of this middle nowhere road, and there's only 3 houses in sight of the crash site. So it's kind of like a remote area where all the houses are super spread out. So she wrecks here. There's a house right here, a house right here, and a house down here. So there's 3 in view of her. 7:15, we find out later we have witness A. You guys remember witness A from the documentary?
Yeah.
She witnesses a black police SUV labeled 001 on the scene, which later is not found on the police reports or anything like that, but she has said still to this day she knows for a fact she saw 001 there, nose to nose with Maura's car, and this was before the first actual cop arrived. At 7:27, another neighbor calls saying, hey, there's been a wreck. 7:33, a bus driver that lives in one of these houses, the one right up here, calls and says, hey, there's a girl that just wrecked her car right outside my house, and I asked if she wanted me to call the cops. She said, no, please don't call the cops, I've already called AAA.
Which
But
can't be true.
yeah, which can't be
there's no
true
cell service.
because there's no cell service, so she just lied to him. For some reason, she did not want the cops there. We think because she was intoxicated. So that was at 7:33. 10 minutes later, he drives home to his house because he has no cell service and tells his wife, and his wife actually calls 911, and that was at 7:43. Yeah. At 7:46, law enforcement shows up and she's gone. So between 7:05, when the first actual call came through, 7:46, she's missing. Butch Atwood's call was at 7:33. Police show up 12 minutes later, and she's gone.
So within 12 minutes.
She just up and vanishes. So there's so many theories circling around this case that we're going to talk about. There's also a lot of info that we have left out because, I mean, we could spend days talking about this case. All the things that happened to her before she went missing, during, if she was alone, who she talked to. There's just so many different things, and there's so many things unknown, which makes it so difficult. So, theory number 1 is runaway. What do you guys think about that?
Okay, so
Whenever it comes to her running away, some of the information that we didn't say was or a week before, she crashed her dad's brand new car, intoxicated with a friend. So she had that to run away from. We know that her mom was sick, her dad was controlling, her sister was an alcoholic on relapse.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend was a cheater and all that.
She had just gotten kicked out of West Point, which is a super sophisticated military school that she went.
So we know she had reasons
she
to
had
run away,
motives
but she
to
wouldn't.
run away.
Like, watching the documentary, it really showed that that's not a turning point of why what she would do. We think, if anything, she was just going to go away and then come back, because you're not going to email your professors, you're not going to do your schoolwork and then email them that you're going to be gone for a week and then run away.
You're not going to care about all that, you're just going to run away.
If I'm going to run away and start a new life, I'm not finishing my schoolwork.
Exactly, and on top of that, she had a class with someone, like a fitness thing later that week. So she went to.
She had plans. She had future plans.
Yeah.
And she was going to go to Myrtle Beach with her sister.
Yeah, yeah.
She had so many future plans that she was looking forward to. She wouldn't run away.
No, I do think that she wanted to
Get away.
Yeah, and there's
For like a week.
Yeah, there's certain things that specifically I think, but I'll go more into detail on that after we do the main, because there's
She needed a break because she was trying to get away since she did lie to her professors, but she didn't want to run away.
yeah.
She just
needed to get away for a little bit because life was kind of crappy at the time, and she just needed
some alone time,
space.
some time for us just to get away and breathe.
Also, another thing that with the runaway thing that makes me not really think it's possible is that her mom had cancer and died a few years later,
And she didn't.
and she never came back for the
Or a
funeral or to
message
see
or
her sick
anything.
mom. She didn't contact anyone.
Should have done something.
If my mom would have died and I was starting
And I
a
was
new
run
life,
away.
something would have came.
Oh yeah.
A mail, like an email or something from like an unknown. Like I would send a letter without my address or something to show my condolences or something to show that I still care, but don't contact me.
Yeah.
And I just don't see her leaving her sick mother who had cancer. Like if my mom had cancer, and as far as we know, her and her mom were close. They had no issues or anything like that. I would not leave her. So.
Yeah.
So there's theory number 1. Theory number 2, I truly do not believe, but is suicide.
I don't believe that at all.
I don't
No.
either.
No.
Especially because, so the car that she has, it shows the rag and
The tailpipe.
and if she did want to commit suicide, she wouldn't have. She would have just left it running while it was in the tailpipe, and then gone that way.
Or if you want to commit suicide, you're not going to go out somewhere and do it. You're just going to do it. What's the point of going out somewhere,
Do all
finding
the
a
effort.
going all the way up north, leaving everybody just to commit suicide?
Or if she wanted to do it away from people, she could have just driven 100 miles per hour on that road, on the icy road, and killed herself, or something.
Or she got into a wreck, she got out and disappeared. You're not going to get. And if you're going to try to kill yourself in that moment, especially with your car, because she did have a rag in the tailpipe. If she wanted to do the whole carbon monoxide type death, she wouldn't have gotten out the car.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She would have stayed in the car.
That's out of all the theories, that's the one that I'm most against.
Yeah.
I don't want to say against, but I'm.
It could have happened because we don't know.
Yes, all of this
We
can
don't think it
happen,
happened.
but
I feel it's the least likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the least likely. I mean, we don't know Maura. now, truly, we don't know her.
Yeah.
We know what we've been told about her life, so maybe it's a possibility, but I really don't see it happening. After seeing interviews and talks with her family and things like that.
And just all the information that everybody gathered.
Yeah, I just don't see that. And it's weird that her dad, Fred, who's been super criticized during this whole thing from people, made that comment about he had told law enforcement or somebody that, well, she probably just walked off in the woods and died, squalled or whatever he calls it. And then they asked him about it later in the documentary, which would have been 13 years after the incident, and he said he really didn't know why he said that or what he was talking about. And, you know, I mean, when your kid goes missing, you don't know what you're saying,
you
you're
don't
feeling,
know.
maybe, you
You're
don't
just gonna
even
say
know.
stuff.
You're just, So he probably said that just.
And everyone says stuff that we regret saying.
And he could have even been angry at Maura, because he might not have suspected foul play at the beginning and was mad that she ran away or did whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He might have thought it was
Because
something.
she did work so hard to get into these schools, and she just up and left.
Yeah,
trying to get back on track.
Yeah. For someone who worked so hard their entire life for certain situations, why get up and leave?
Yeah.
Why just throw it away so you can have a break?
Yeah, for sure. The next theory is a police cover-up. Joel really likes this idea, so you can talk about that a little bit.
All I'm saying is, she left no tracks. There was no signs of like her waiting around too long for somebody to pick her up,
Ooh.
and for the cops to just like, I guess, half-ass it. If anyone is going to do something to somebody and it remains unsolved, she's still not found, I feel like the cops have that level of resources to cover it up and just make it look like, oh, she just went missing and nobody knows.
Right.
You know, I mean,
But what would their purpose be?
exactly.
Like, why?
But that's the thing is
Because they always want to cover up the bad cops.
I'm saying, why
Well,
would they do that tomorrow?
there's-
Like, they don't know her.
because I was thinking about that, and it's like, to them, she's just another person out there. There's
Yeah.
no reason to even go through that kind of trouble just
Right.
to cover that up. But it makes me think, and it might be tying into another theory that you've written down, is trafficking.
Yeah,
Because something like that is something trafficking level or mafia level, someone that's higher up.
That could control the cops or
Yeah,
something.
the cops
yeah.
would not,
Mess with them.
yeah, they wouldn't show hesitation or resistance, you know, because it's,
So you think they might have been involved in something not of their doing, but they're just not
they don't want
solving
to be,
it because of something that happened?
yeah,
above
perhaps
them?
maybe they don't want to be next, or,
Right.
you know, maybe someone in the law enforcement was in the wrong place at the wrong time, saw
Yeah.
something they shouldn't have. Or maybe if it was trafficking, someone promised them a cut of the profit,
Pay 'em off.
you know, or something. There's any number of reasons, but if anyone's going to cover up a missing person this well,
Yeah.
it's going to be the cops.
I just think that you would be like, if the cops wasn't hiding anything, they would have already talked to the family more. They would have given more information, because you're not going to hide everything on a case that's still cold.
They
Like,
were so tightly
they're-
sealed about things.
yeah, like if you really don't know what happened and you don't think that you're gonna like find anything, and you obviously haven't this long, why not tell the family what you have?
Right.
Yeah.
Because then it just really does look like you're covering something up.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't personally think the cops has done anything like towards her or like
Right.
not covering it up, but I think no matter what you believe, I feel like everyone can kind of agree that at the very, very least they're negligent.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah, for
Oh,
There
sure.
was
But,
some
like-
sketchy cops.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they did anything like ill content or anything. I think
So it's like a
they're
botched
just-
investigation,
yeah,
like they
but-
said.
Yeah, they're just
And they just
My
don't want to
thing
take the
is-
heat for it.
In the documentary,
Yeah.
they talk about how the sheriff, since he wasn't there on the scene because somebody saw him, that he was reported to be drunk a lot at work. So what if he was so drunk at work,
Yeah.
he doesn't remember being there,
Right.
but he was there and just didn't help?
Or he was there and intoxicated, and he was like,
she
just
and maybe that's the
they're gonna look
reason
out for
she
each other.
swerved off the road.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it could be.
yeah. He could have been the reason that she swerved off the road.
Well, what was when Witness A showed up? Did Witness A show up before 001?
During.
No.
There.
I was already
she
there.
was passing.
She passed
While
001, saw 001, stopped ahead of her car, turned around to see if she could help, didn't see any bodies, and then decided that she was going to drive home to call 911 and to see what was going on.
Right, and
Yeah.
she saw nobody. She didn't
No,
see
she
cops.
saw nobody.
Or
All
Maura.
she saw was Maura's car and the 001
Which-
sheriff's vehicle.
Which begs the question, where was the cop?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, unless he
And
was
he's
part of it.
notorious for drinking and driving on the job.
So what if he was drunk and got kind of
Exactly.
promiscuous and was like, oh, here's a damsel in distress. She tried to fight him. He hurried up and got in his car and left, and then guys pulled up.
You know, I'd never thought of that, and that's actually a really good theory. He could have just thrown her in his car, and then he had all night to do whatever he wanted because
Yeah.
nobody even
Yeah.
knew he was there.
Yeah, and it's not in the reports. He denies it, and
And cops are gonna look out for
It's-
each other.
Yeah.
110%.
Oh, yeah.
So
And on the video, if you watch the documentary, it
That's
shows that one of the cops, like the head cop on the case, has to sit in the room with each of the other cops that are like giving their point of
He did
view.
look sketchy.
So there's something there.
Yeah.
Like if they
know
weren't
something.
allowed to hide something or just be covering something up, he wouldn't have sat in that room. He wouldn't have been watching them to see what they were going to say and how they were going to say it.
Right,
So
if
I
they were
really
gonna slip
do.
up or something.
Yeah, so something is sketchy there.
Yeah, like why do the cops need an attorney with them?
Right.
So you think the Butch Atwood in his bus with the lights on, he wouldn't have been able to see her?
Not at all.
So she could have easily just snuck off somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because
my thing is the dogs. Whenever they brought up the dogs and they stopped right by his
Yeah.
house, which means that she had gotten into a vehicle or something. Like, there's no way nothing would have happened. Either that or, like, either he could have gotten out and hurt her right there, left her, and then somebody picked her up. Or there's so many things that could have happened that night because Butch wasn't looking, and now he's dead.
well, remember when they interviewed the first cop that was on the scene was Cecil, and he said that when he got there, he saw Butch Atwood and was like, "Hey, what's going on? Where is she?" And Butch was like, "I don't know. I came back to my house. I don't know where she is." And the cop literally had Butch Atwood go look for her. He's not a cop. Cecil was there by himself, so we don't really know what Butch did.
Why would a
Yeah.
cop ask someone to do his job for him? That's
Yeah, like, oh, hey, go look for her. Well, what if Butch did find her and did something with her?
Or what if he
We'll
did
get back
something to her before
And there, he knew where she was.
And so if he went and found her, he could either hide her better or just act like he didn't find her.
Yeah.
right.
Act like he was looking for him.
I still think they should search his house.
And
Just
that-
search his house.
That guy that had found the he was like a former law enforcement and he found the wood chippings with blood.
Yeah,
He was saying that the people in that town are very strange.
yeah.
And so, you know, and that goes kind of with the whole email thing.
Mm-hmm.
That guy died in 2005 getting shot
Mm-hmm.
for not minding his own business.
On another
or,
case.
yeah, or like knowing too much or something. So it's very possible that she did hide behind the bus and then just kind of walked off and then ran into somebody else that was waiting. Just was like, oh, you know, this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take advantage.
It takes 20 seconds to get out of sight of
Yeah.
somebody, especially in the
Yeah.
pitch black out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
She
And
could have
another
been right
thing-
there.
Another thing I was thinking, you know how those one neighbors will not speak on it till this day?
Yeah, that's
Never
weird.
once. What if they were really close to Butch, saw Butch do something, and that's why they won't talk?
Right.
Because they're trying to hide their
Because
friend.
they're neighbors. Of course they know each other.
Yeah,
And
they're trying to protect their friend and his family and his name.
I think... Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know why all the houses haven't been searched.
None of them were searched.
I
None
don't
of them
think
were interviewed. The cops... You suck. Because they didn't do anything. They literally did nothing.
Yeah, I don't get it. I've never heard
No.
of cops like not even a cop, not a group of cops, the whole like police force not doing anything.
Their lack of taking action on anything. They didn't interview anyone.
They didn't talk to the dad for what, 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
They never talked to the sister.
They never
crazy.
contacted the sister. She's a missing person. So at first they probably didn't think she was actually it was going to turn into this. But if you show up on a scene where a 21-year-old just ran off the road and you know that she's been drinking because they found empty alcohol bottles in her car and now she's missing, not only do you need to look for her well-being, but she's also going to be in trouble. I mean,
Yeah.
because she was drinking and driving and she wrecked and she walked away from the scene. That's 100% illegal. So they need to be looking for her for several reasons. And they looked and the vicinity and said, "Oh well, she's not here. Let's just go home and go to bed."
They had all the motive to do their best.
Hey, you guys called the cops. Can I check your house just in case?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna get a warrant.
On top of that, like, what's really crazy is she ran in, like, she crashed because maybe the alcohol, maybe she was under the influence. Well, when she got trashed, like, a couple days before, the cop told the tow truck guy to drive her to her dad's hotel, and when they did that, like, the dad didn't know until like the morning after, but literally, I think maybe less than a week, she already had that type of trouble. Why wouldn't you be more serious about it? Like, it, something like that just happened. Like,
I've got a question. Who was it that mentioned the guys with the cigarette smoking with
It was one of the houses that called, one of the 911 calls, and those are also the people that refuse to talk to anybody.
Why call the cops to try to help, but then never say anything? You're hiding something. Now, you know something and you refuse to say it.
Right. If they're hiding something, they could have purposely said something false just to throw them off.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah.
What is that called? Like a red herring or something? Or not a red herring. What am I thinking of? Where you purposely throw them the wrong bone to make them like detour.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
They're trying to throw them off track or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know either.
No, I know.
You just don't
You
know.
don't know.
I know, but
But doing.
But
So, regardless of whether, like you said, you don't think the cops actually did anything to her, they just really
Or covering something up.
they're covering how
Sketchy.
much of a terrible job they did as a cop.
and I'm really interested on. I always forget the guy and girl's name that we watched.
Maggie and Art,
Yeah. So
Dude, I loved them.
the
I
fact
love
that
them.
they
Derby.
She's so
specifically
pretty.
said that everyone that thinks it was the cops are gonna feel silly afterwards, because the podcast said that the cops told them something that, like, that initiated the fact that the cops aren't like as sketchy as they seem. But what I don't like about that is they're not able to say it because it is still a running case. So that's the only thing that like kills me is I believe them on that. Obviously they know something that we don't know, but at the same time I wish they were able to say it. Like that.
Yeah.
My thing is, if the cop can tell those people, why can't they tell everybody?
Right.
You're already telling somebody outside of the case.
Unless what they're saying isn't true.
Or unless what they're saying is they know who killed her, or they're suspicious and they don't want the family to know yet. Because they don't want to, like,
I think it's that.
throw the family off.
I think because whatever, like, say if they do have like 2 or 3 leads, then no matter what, those people are gonna like get hell for it. It doesn't even matter if it's true.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I think they didn't show the ATM footage, because they also mentioned that there could be people in the background of the ATM, and people blow stuff out of proportion. So some random guy walking down the street in the ATM footage now might have death threats because.
Well, the only problem with that was with the ATM footage, because they did show it, it only showed her face up close.
Yeah.
You couldn't see anything in the background, trust me. I was looking.
It didn't show her walking up to it, leaving. They literally
It showed
just
her right there,
face.
pulling out the cash, looking up, and then going to
Yeah.
the side and counting the money. It shows nothing else.
She wasn't like looking behind at somebody. She
She
wasn't.
wasn't
like,
talking to
anyone.
somebody.
Yeah,
It was just her up close, pulling out money, and then she left.
Yeah.
Could they have seen more from the video that they're not saying? Like, what's direct? Like, if there was anybody else in the car, if they saw anybody following her. But again, we are talking about the cops that did nothing, so it's hard to tell.
My thing is, if you're gonna kill somebody and there's been this much hype on her life, like, you've gotta have some guilt. Like, just come forward. Like, I get it, a lot of people don't want to spend their lives in prison or anything, but come on.
But at the same time, I feel like that would also be polar opposite. Like that could give them a thrill. Like they
Oh,
haven't
yeah,
caught
for
me
sure.
for this long.
That's true.
Because killers, they don't think like we do. So they
They're like,
enjoy
"Ha,
it.
I got away with it.
They
Yeah.
enjoy
Let's see
that.
how
I'm
much
never
longer.
gonna. The cops obviously are searching this house. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
If they're a true psychopath, they're loving that her case is still getting this much attention after 16 years.
Yeah.
So, if it was like an accident, random type of thing, I feel like somebody probably would have come forward by this point because they would have felt guilty, or somebody would have
Right.
said something to somebody along the way.
Somebody with conscience.
If it was an accident, you'd be like, look, I didn't mean for this to happen. I panicked. I didn't want to come to the cops.
Right.
And here,
But this long? Like, I just
Yeah.
don't see that being that. It wasn't an accident. Whatever happened to her was not an accident.
and that bring like the psychopath type killer, whatever thing. A lot of people think that Israel Keys was in that area when she went missing. The guy with the kill kids around the country.
Oh.
He was actually in that part of the country when she went missing, so that's kind of weird.
Ooh.
And he killed himself, so they can't ask him.
So we can't ask him.
Right.
He's dead. But another girl actually went missing within a few months of Maura in that same area. So that's weird.
Yeah.
They could be involved.
Her car was
Or they could be
abandoned.
related.
Mhm.
Her car was abandoned and backed up into some random shed.
Mhm.
That's now burned down.
Sorry.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's not burned down.
I was gonna say, even if it wasn't the same killer, if it was a killer, maybe it was somebody that was like trying to be a copycat and is like, I'm gonna do their job better, you know, or
Yeah?
you know, there are copycats out there
Oh, yeah,
that
for sure.
wanna see if they can do the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
So, the next theory we have kidnapping, but for human trafficking purposes. So, we have two types of kidnapping that we're going to talk about. The first one is human trafficking purposes. Very not uncommon. Unfortunately.
I don't see it being that. I don't know why I don't. I
see
just
that.
don't. I don't see somebody following her. Like, if somebody's gonna follow her and like murder her and stuff, they have a motive. I feel like they either sketched her out or thought she was pretty. They got into a fight. Something must have happened. I really don't think that they purposely was like, oh, I'm gonna go after this 21-year-old woman.
because that would take so much more planning.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. They don't just
Yeah.
run up and grab people.
Oh, she looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they do, we don't know. I mean, I
I mean,
hope not.
I don't know,
It
but-
felt like there was at least some planning to this, but there was also like a whole opportunistic side to it.
Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna
could have
say-
been. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna agree that like a lot of it does seem, I don't want to say coincidental, but like
It kind of is. Yeah.
like everything that could go wrong happened
Oh yeah.
so quickly.
Like, was she at the wrong place at the wrong time, or was somebody following her?
Right.
Like, if she was at the wrong place at the wrong time, like, what are the odds that she would just break down at a place, somebody drives by who just so happens to be, like, a terrible person with bad motives, and she hops in the car with them? Like, that is horrible luck.
Right.
So,
And if you see somebody following you, because you've got to know somebody's following you. Like, if you're
out
leaving
in
a place,
a road like that.
yeah, if you're leaving a place and you see somebody turn and they're physically following you,
Well,
I feel
especially
like
at
you would
nighttime.
drive very carefully to where you wouldn't wreck. You would get to your destination and get around people that can help.
If someone did it to her, if that is what happened, they had experience. They knew what they were doing. Like, they had a plan, but like, you know, with Jeffrey Dahmer, he had a type.
yeah.
They have types, so it's like maybe he wasn't looking specifically for Maura, but he happened to come across Maura.
Right. I
She
mean,
stepped into his hunting grounds,
Yeah.
so to speak.
there are opportunistic killers everywhere that they have that in them, and they're just living their day, they're going about their life, and then they see like their type, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just gonna take this opportunity to do this.
Today's the day.
But
Yeah.
also, a thing about that though is people did say that, like, because if you watch the documentary, the woman drives the same thing and there's an hour difference. So they thought, like, maybe she stopped at a bar or a restaurant with some friends, and another person said that she called and says she was with friends. So maybe she was with the people and she knew that they were following her, but at the same time, it's like, if that did happen to her, why didn't anybody know? Why didn't she call? I mean, why didn't she call while she was, like, in town? Like, if she was with people, then she knew they were following her, then why did the bus driver see them?
And see, I feel like that would be like she's prepared to deal with an amateur. Which is
Yeah.
why I say that whoever did it, if someone did it, wasn't their first time.
Yeah.
Like
for
they've
sure.
they've figured out the variables where they went wrong before and how they can avoid that this time.
Yeah.
That they literally could get away with it in 8 minutes
Mhm.
or 12 minutes. And just like the psychic said, she said this is definitely not this person's first time. If you believe in psychics, I do.
What
Psychic
she
mediums.
was saying, what she was saying without knowing anything, like she knew nothing.
Yeah, she knew nothing about the case prior to her interviews.
That's what tripped me up. Like she wasn't saying a whole lot that we didn't know as like a viewer.
Right.
That's because they already told us.
Yeah, so
She
it was
went
really
in-
eerie.
No,
She
I
went
had a
from her-
theory before, and then as soon as they brought in that psychic, I had a completely different theory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My whole mind
exactly.
changed after they brought in the
Now,
psychic.
I do believe that, like, I don't know if what she, because I don't know anything about psychics, but I'm assuming that they can only, if that's like real, they can only like see so much, so it might, like certain spots might be untrue, but the fact that she knows as much as she did without
It
knowing,
was
She hit some
weird. It
major
was odd.
points.
And getting in a
Yeah.
car with somebody, how would she even know that could have been an option?
yeah.
Yeah.
And she,
Or that she couldn't read her mom, like she couldn't
No,
find
yeah.
anything on
because
her
she
mom.
knew that her mom was deceased, like that was weird. She's a psychic medium, so all of her information was coming from Maura, if you believe that. That's what she said.
And it's also up to interpretation. She could get all kinds of information, but she's got to be like, could it mean this or could it mean this?
She's trying, and she has to communicate the information that she hears. She can't just ramble all the stuff that she hears in her head. Like she has to communicate it in a way that we're gonna understand.
She's got to filter it somehow.
Yeah. So, human trafficking. Yeah.
I would say no.
Yeah,
Probably.
that's probably
I would say for sure. No.
like that's probably
And
a
plus they
further
like,
stretch.
yeah, and plus they like found the blood and stuff in their closet of somebody, so it
Yeah.
could, of the same guys.
Right. If it was trafficking, it wouldn't have been like, oh, here's a pit stop. Let's just shove these bodies in a closet.
Yeah, they wouldn't have
Yeah.
like tortured her or
No.
anything. They would have instantly brought her to a new
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
She
They
would
would've
have
put
been
her
in
in
another
jail.
country
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah, she wouldn't have just sat there.
Right.
The next theory we have is also kidnapping, but unfortunately murder. These last two theories are my biggest ones.
I think she was kidnapped. I totally think.
I totally think she was picked up. Maybe she went in willingly at first and it went wrong. Maybe she was forced into a car. I don't know.
Oh.
That's it.
Oh, I was gonna say to build onto that, when they went looking in those woods and they're like, well, could they bring her up here in these woods on a horse
Right.
or a sled? And they were like, no, but it's possible she was alive walking in there willingly.
Yeah,
in
maybe
the
he had to go to her
beginning.
head and was like, walk out here because
Right.
of course you're not
Yeah,
gonna run
somehow.
quickly.
Like
Yeah.
maybe she like went to the bar or something, and they all were like, "Hey, you want to take this back to our place? We have a cool spot where we can all hang out and party."
Mhm.
Because even the psychic says that they took her to a party place, and that's where they like
Things went wrong.
that's when things went wrong, and that's where her body's like around.
Mhm.
So I feel like if that is it, then maybe she did willingly go to see this fun place, get away, hang out, and then
She's
that.
intoxicated. She's trying to get away for the week, so she's
Yeah.
like, you know what? Screw
Let's
it. Let's
have
do
fun.
this.
She's
Yeah.
not gonna second guess it. She's just gonna.
Yeah.
And she seems like she's not like a 21-year-old who's just throwing her life away. She's kind of like a just
She has a head
rebellious.
on her shoulders.
She has a head on her
but
shoulders, but she
rebellious.
likes to have fun.
Right. She wants to live a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like me before I had kids. So I
She's
was
like me after I had kids.
I did some questionable things and I had a lot of fun, but I was responsible at the same time. But sometimes you don't, I mean, nobody thinks that's going to happen to
Agreed.
you. Like, I did some stuff back in college that I think back now and I'm like, what was I
Why?
thinking?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I could have literally gotten murdered. You know, going into people's houses that I didn't know or walking home from the bar alone.
But in the moment, you never think it's gonna.
You don't
be
think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't even think about that kind of stuff. So she probably was just like, ooh, these guys seem nice or this guy seems nice. I'm going to go have fun for a little bit and get away from
And the
wherever
psychic
the heck
says
just happened.
the psychic says that she's familiar with the person. They're not like super close, but she has seen them
Yeah.
before. So I feel like
That,
she went with an acquaintance.
but she's like, oh, I recognize you because we know that we haven't mentioned yet that she was at a
At a
party,
party
a
with
few
her
nights
friends.
before with a bunch of guys from college that she didn't know too well, but she knew of them. And
So maybe her friends were like, "Oh, we trust these people. Come hang out."
Right.
And then she was like, "Oh, that's my friend's friend from the party."
yeah.
And then went with them.
She knew them enough to trust them.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of people are skeptical about her friend group who also were at that party that she hung out with in college because they really haven't said anything. They're a little sketchy.
Super sketchy.
You know, they just don't have
sketchy.
any information to give, apparently.
Yeah, I feel like if any of my friends went missing,
Ask me anything.
I-
I'm gonna
Ask
tell
me
you.
anything.
Everything.
I
Every
have nothing
single
to
thing.
hide. Like,
Right.
I go to my house, go through my phone. I mean, don't go
Do-
through Joe's phone, but go through.
He might fight you for that, but
Don't touch it.
you're
I
gonna
swear
need
I'm
a
not
warrant
hiding
for that.
anything. I'm not hiding anything.
You're gonna need a warrant for Joel's phone. But you can look through ours.
Go
We'll
through
just-
ours,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. We'll just hand it to you. But
You want my passcode? Come here.
Right? Like, I truly think that something's there that. Why wouldn't the friends say something?
Yeah, they're hiding something.
I don't get it. I obviously don't think they did anything.
I feel like
Your
all of them
friends.
are hiding something because if one of my friends went missing, yes, I'd be in grief, but I'd be 100% willing to help.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
bring me back, my friend. Like, that's not grief. That they're not hiding stuff because they're sad that their
Yeah.
friend went missing. They're hiding stuff because they know something.
Not only that, like for an example, our friend group, but not only like say Joe goes missing. Well, you did go missing that one time. He,
That's true.
you evaporated really or something with your shoes. That was bad.
I pulled a Houdini.
But we called people, we texted people.
yeah, it wasn't like
We narrowed stuff down. It
Yeah.
wasn't like we were just like, oh, that's okay,
Joel's
and then started
missing, don't know
claiming
what
their
happened.
phones
Yeah, that's
because that'd be wrong.
That would be terrible. Those friends are trash.
They're horrible friends.
With friends like those, who needs enemies?
But no, I don't know. I definitely.
I think that's the most realistic option. One of the most realistic options for
Yeah.
me, anyway.
Absolutely.
Which it's odd that nobody saw it, but like I said, she could have been out of view in a couple minutes, and who knows what happened out of view.
Yeah.
And I definitely do want to like go over like one or two of these because it might not just be one. It might be like two of them together. Like, and when we talk about like what we think, I'm actually really excited about that because I do think that people think of an idea and then base everything on that idea. So every like controversy that like would
They
say
could view it
Yeah.
to be on that
yeah,
one thing.
anything that would contradict it, they're like narrowed to where it has to be
It
that.
has to be this one thing.
Yeah, and that's one thing I don't like is I wish people were more like open minded. Like no one knows. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone truly knew, then we wouldn't have this discussion.
I feel like you could make a point, like get your mind to do that if like you had evidence, but the cops won't tell you anything. The family
Exactly.
doesn't
We
know
don't have
anything.
evidence.
We have a
timeline, and that's
just to be
it.
like, this is what happened. I don't agree with that.
We have zero evidence. We have her timeline, and that's the only evidence we have. It's
Yeah.
like she vanished into thin air.
Yeah.
There's no trace of her. She didn't leave anything behind. Her cell phone never regained service,
No
so
tracks.
nobody knows where the phone is. No
Unless they like
footprints.
whoever took her like threw the phone.
Yeah, it could be out in the woods buried. I mean, those woods are deep. They go deep.
Oh yeah.
You're not gonna end up
Yeah.
on another side of town going through those woods. You're gonna end up lost.
And no one digged. I'm just saying. You know.
Yeah.
No.
And the people that searched got an email on the coordinates and was like, this is where her body's at. And in the documentary, they go and look. But I don't know if they actually searched more and just didn't show it. But what they showed, they didn't search. They didn't.
I
They
don't
just
know if
kind
they
of
looked
were
around.
worried because they were scared someone was going to be there to like hurt them. But I feel like they could have dug. They could have searched around more.
Hired
They
a
could have
search
lit
team.
stuff up. They could have
Yeah.
brought a dog.
Yeah.
Because for all we
Yeah.
know, it could have been a troll on the internet, but at the same
Yeah.
time, we don't know.
Yeah, there
Like-
could there's
And-
a possibility that
Yeah.
it was
And
somebody
whoever
that
was trolling, if somebody was trolling them, it had to have been a local. Because nobody's going to know those coordinates follow with that
Yeah.
deep of the woods. Like, they're not going to know that that's off the trail if you're some random person. They're not going to
Exactly.
know that, like, it's this far off the trail.
They have to be
They
familiar
have
with
to
the
be
area.
familiar.
Mhm.
Unless they just Google mapped it. I mean,
Right. Which is possible.
you could be like,
Right.
oh, let's pick these woods. Let's pick here because it'll tell you the coordinates.
It's the neighbors. I still think it's the neighbors.
Well, that brings us to our last theory, which is Butch Atwood, who was the bus driver who saw her, asked if she needed help. She said no because she had already called AAA. He knew that was a lie because there's no service out there. So he went home, told his wife, and his wife called 911.
And no one really like talks about this certain like
Theory?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, well, he was there. That's that.
My thing is, if the shoe fits, he needs to wear it. search the house.
Try it on.
Like, if his
Like-
wife's the one that called the cops, he's like, hey, there's a chick out there, got hurt. She doesn't know anything. He could have already grabbed her.
Right.
Like, she could be
He has a big
anywhere.
old school bus out there that nobody even looked at. He could have just thrown her in the school bus.
Yeah.
He
I don't
could
know.
have done anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's-
no, and he was the last person to see her alive.
He's the last
No one
person to see her
knows.
alive.
Like,
And they didn't even question him or search his house.
search his house.
They
Get it-
asked him.
Get a warrant
Like-
for that.
Yeah, like if I'm just saying I'm not gonna
You need
hurt
probable
somebody,
cause?
but if I hurt somebody and I'm trying to cover it up, if you ask me if I did it, why would I tell you I did it?
Yeah, like duh.
Exactly.
Okay, so Butch Atwood, he's guilty, but he's dead. He's not really guilty, we don't know. But he is very suspicious. Nobody questioned him or searched his bus or anything.
Go back and search.
Definitely a possibility. So, this wraps up part 1 of Missing Maura Murray.
continued.
To be continued. Next episode, we are going to go through and talk about which theory we like,
Specifically, yeah.
we believe in the most and why. And we would love to hear feedback from you guys. If you liked this kind of story, we can do another one sometime.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And
Give us suggestions.
Yes.
and if you do have like a theory, like comment it, and if you want to like put articles or whatever, because I'm more than willing to like
Look more into it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because
There's a lot more to it.
And if you want to look into it, comment and we'll like tell you the name of the documentary. We'll give you the podcast
Mhm.
names. Just let us know and we can give you the information as well.
Yeah,
We're always jacked to hear from you.
that's right. We love you all. Thank you so much for watching.